allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning.
Peggy. We have a small crowd today.
Yeah.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I will second.
I have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. General public concerns, we have no one here today, so we'll
We're gonna do the minutes.
move on. We have make a motion to approve the minutes.
I looked through them and, didn't see anything in there, so I'd make a motion.
I'll second.
We have a first and second on the minutes, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. General public concerns, no one's here. Okay. So, we'll probably move on down.
Randy, well, we can do
Do
a...
this Randy's outside.
Randy's sitting out there.
Oh, he is. Alrighty.
He's got his bookwork and he's all
He
ready.
is, he's very efficient.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Randy.
Well, I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm here. Monday morning.
Well, there you go, we're off and running.
That's count.
Okay. Just a report, on a livestock, feeding building. About a month ago, I got a call from a guy, and his name was Paul Trauger. I think it was, and he admitted himself he had Alzheimer's, and it was very difficult to get information exactly what he wanted, but eventually he said, well, I'll have my son contact you, Brandon Trauger.
Right.
And, so, eventually, after about a month, then, I got, information, a DNR report for a permit for the DNR. So basically, DNR sends a report, looking for the county then to okay, that it's sent back to the DNR. If everything's okayed, then the owner applies for a county permit. Is that right? That's the way I understood it. And then we go from there.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, I'll give you this. And,
Thank you.
this is what I've written up, so we can, you can kinda understand what I have here today. This sheet just gives you basic information of what has taken place for this. This is, the name of the, operation is Grandview Stock Farms. You can see the location there. And the, owner, Brandon Trauger, and his, contact information is there. The actual report, was completed by Twin Lakes Environmental Services, by Becky Sexton. She's a consultant there, and she lives in Rockwell City. And so she sent to us, then, the DNR permit application, which is this thing. And the ladies in the office here made me a copy, so I can, the original's in there. Requirement, basically, having a public notice, as you can see there, which I was gone the week before, and Peggy was nice to, hey, we gotta get that into the newspaper, so I whipped it up real fast, and I called the newspaper and said, hey, can we, get it in there yet? And they were very nice to let us do that, so, we made it by the deadline. Then after that, as you can see on there was a site visitation, and at that site visitation was Becky Sexton, from Twin Lakes Environmental Services. Daniel Watterson from DNR, he's an environmental specialist, and he's out of Mason City. I was also there, and we were all in a drowning rainstorm. It was just raining like unbelievable. So, we actually met in a minivan, But, anyway, we basically went through what was required. I told them I hadn't done this before, and Becky said, just give her a call on this, as required or needed, which I did. The page that shows the site map there are already 2 existing buildings there, so this is an expansion. And, as the illustration shows there are actually 3 parcels that already exist there. The original parcel was the one listed with the last number of 7, if you can see it on there.
Yeah.
And then the next one to the right, or would be to the east of that one, is another parcel that, is actually, I gotta find it here. That one is, last digit is 9. But you'll notice that, the second building, or the east building there, actually sat on the original parcel, right on the edge, so my assumption is, and I'll find out more, but that second parcel was purchased from his father, land, who is the larger parcels there. So, but with the request of a 3rd building, I can show you on here, this is where the 3rd building in blue would be located. Again, right to the east, but again, meeting setback requirements, they would have to have more land there. And so I explained, they gotta make sure they have enough land there for the setback requirements. So, since what you see here, they're already showing on an aerial view that I get from the assessor's office, there is another parcel right here, which is the last 2 digits are 11. So I'm not sure when that transaction took place, but it must have been a legal transaction to show that parcel is now listed as Brandon's parcel. Okay?
Okay.
So, anyway, it appears, and I won't know until I get the application for the county permit, I will go back out, take measurements, and make sure that that's the case. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. The back page of that, we have to send to the DNR then, where it says submit to the DNR in writing any recommendations, approval or disapproval, and an example of notification documents attached, if they would have any. Matrix scoring. The matrix scoring was done by Becky Sexton in here, and I couldn't believe how professional and how well that's done. All the scoring is done there by each category, and there's more stuff in here than I even knew could possibly be in existence, but yes, there's, of course, soil maps, there's proximity, separation distances, and that kind of thing that are required by the DNR. So basically, this was created by the consultant for Brandon Trauger to be presented to the DNR. Okay? And then, just a proof of that information has been publicized. The last page is actually showing the breakdown of the scoring of the matrix, and it shows the 3 categories that those are in, and how they come up with that. And if you look at the bottom, it scored a 505. Required is 880, or excuse me, 440 out of 880. And so, as far as that information, it meets the requirement as far as the matrix is concerned. Understanding that the board, regardless of the matrix scoring, the board can either approve or disapprove. Whether the scoring is whatever it is, the board has the discretion of making that approval or disapproval to the DNR. okay?
And if we disapprove, then we get overruled.
Because what does the DNR come in and say, oh, they, this is a state thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what somebody was saying, that we really don't have much of a say in it.
Well, and also in the publication is requiring time for comments or people to review this and then make comments. And I don't know if we received any of those, any comments. I didn't believe so, but, Chris usually lets me know very quickly about stuff, so, no comments at this time.
So the Board of Adjustment had none? No questions, no issues?
The board has decided the board of adjustment would no longer look at these.
All right.
It would be a recommendation of the zoning. I should have changed the wording instead of...
Okay.
All right.
Right. That was my understanding too, but I wasn't sure on that, so, the only issue that I can see is making sure that there is land purchased, legally purchased, and those, parcels are as they are listed.
Moved over.
Right, and so that that was the only thing I could see was a possible issue.
Neighbors wise, there is hardly any neighbors.
Right, and in here, as far as, like this, is showing distances for, obviously for water, for,
Air quality.
yeah, all of those things that, there's, like I say, there's information here for all of that, And I called Becky Sexton, I said, now this, because I wanted to make sure I could use this, never having done this before, can this be used to present to the board? And she said, yes, that's usually what occurs. So that's why I just made a summary of the categories on the first page there of what this document covers.
Right.
And that's
Now,
just...
this site visit, should that be, June 27th?
I'm sorry, yes,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. Then at the very last part of that back page, I just put down there some notes and comments and, where the site visitation took place, and they were extremely professional and very helpful to me, even though we were in a minivan with a drowning rainstorm. And then I wrote there too that, we would need to make sure that that land, was legally purchased and transferred to the son's name, and Becky, indicated that, they knew that, and apparently they did, because I'm assuming, until I find out for sure, that they did, take care of that, and that really would not have any impact as far as the DNR application. It would only impact, our setback regulations and ordinances, so.
I'm sure the bank would make sure that that piece of ground was, because before they're gonna loan any money,
Right.
they're gonna look at parcels.
Right. And like I went on actually yesterday, and this is what it's shown as the parcels now. The one that you have there was actually, 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
So, until I find out for sure, when we get the permit, I'll do that research on that and make sure that that's the case. So, and then the requirement for that, the last page that I've given you there, is, simply, sent to the DNR, indicating, approval or disapproval, and signed by, the chairman of the board, and, then that part goes in with the information that we send back to the DNR, which is due by the 12th in Mason City.
So that one needs to go off this week, once I get that typed up, will you be in Rick to
Yeah,
sign it for us?
I'll be around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to type this up?
We already have it in the computer, because
Oh.
we've done it for several others.
Okay,
So we'll just use our
okay,
copy that we...
right. I didn't know that for sure, but I thought maybe that would be the
Yeah,
case.
We haven't had you do one of these before, so you
No,
know that we
no,
have that.
no. So I guess with that, I would just, ask you if you have any questions.
Let's see, what did they...
We haven't got any calls on this or anything, people adding, wanting to...
No.
Not in our office, I don't know.
I haven't got...
And again, it's an expansion,
Right.
you know, so the others
The
are
building's already there.
already there, it's just an expansion, and which more would indicate, you know, a larger population of animals, you know, and it, you know, so,
Right.
As long as they got, their manure management plant covers,
right,
got enough acres,
yeah.
apparently does, and
Yeah.
they are accepted.
Yeah, it's an entire,
Will there be a lagoon?
No.
I
Yeah,
think.
it's good.
It's a pit building.
yeah,
They close it out. And honestly, if they're closer they are to where their land is, the better it is for the county.
right.
Less damage to your roads.
Okay, so will they just put that on their, you said site,
Fields, yeah.
Spring and fall, and usually when they get their crops out. Well, I guess all we need is just to accept it, right,
Yeah.
Peggy?
Yep.
I'd make a motion, we accept the addition for Brandon Trauger's finishing site, section 14, excuse me, of Humboldt Township.
I'll second it.
First and second, all in favor,
Aye.
no one opposed, motion carries. And then like I said, we're gonna be leaving Friday, so we'll have to have that done.
Yeah, it'll have to.
Okay, and come for a haircut, so slip in.
You can clean up your act and then leave again.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I would tell you, Randy, I was going through my computer and your email with all of the stuff, the
Oh,
all
right,
of-
the report.
yeah, your report for what you've done is like, wow,
Yeah.
it's really very,
Well, I was gonna ask if that's, if you want that, if not, we wasn't really discussed, but I try to do that at the end of the month. I keep track of each, you know, activity, try to just make it simple, brief, so,
Yeah, very
you know,
nice.
very nice.
Everything, no, I liked it.
obviously, if you got questions, you're gonna call me anyway, but
Right.
I'm trying to update you a little bit, if I can, so if you still want me to do that, I certainly will do that, so.
it's nice to see
What's going on around.
and
Yeah.
what you looked at, so I think it's very nice,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
The only other thing I have is just a reminder, as when I was hiring, I indicated that I'm gonna be gone, Labor Day week, and a little bit of the next week, so there might have to be, however you would want, I obviously will still be available by email, text, or phone, so, and Chris is really good about, like I said, right away, you know, but I won't be available to come and get it, so however you wanna cover when I'm gone, you might wanna discuss that, however you wanna do it, and if, you know, if it can wait till I get back, that's whatever you wanna do.
Everybody comes up.
Yeah, but I just wanted to remind you of that as well, so,
Yeah.
okay?
Well, if you just put that in the end of your August report, as a reminder,
Right.
that way we can,
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that.
Okay, thank you very much, Randy.
You bet.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, follow them.
I think you can go ahead.
Think we can, it's got you, all right. Scott, do you wanna come up and get started early? Sure.
We
You
need,
ready? I'll be ready.
I was gonna say, do you wanna do the claims quick if the girls are waiting on?
Can if you want.
I got, I reviewed, looked through the numbers, for the general was $381,309.02. In drainage, I had 140,874.66.
That's what I see.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, so I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay.
Pardon? Oh, 840, 884.66.
There too, okay.
That way we won't stop progress in the other room. Garage door's going on.
I'm gonna, what is that?
What is that noise?
I doubt if he's gonna mow with all the flagpoles up.
I know. That'd be a lot of turning.
Yeah, must be getting something else.
All right, good morning, are we ready?
Morning,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're right.
I will
Thank you.
hand out these packets here, oops, Peggy, you bet. Okay, good morning, I'm Scott Curran with Avens Marty Curran Agency in Humboldt. I just wanted to go, be in front of the supervisor board this morning to review our county insurance packet, for the July 1st fiscal year going forward. And what I have is just a summary packet, and what we'll do is actually go to the back page, and I'll hit the highlights here, and then we'll kind of work from the front and go through accordingly. So, obviously, this is the overall premium or contribution summary. As you can see, the 19 to 20 renewal, we are at $183,970.95. That is up $18,856 over the prior year. And all of that pretty much, well, more than all of that is attributed to our workers' compensation section. That was up $22,276 over last year. And when we go through our individual sections, I'll highlight the main reasons why, and work comp's pretty well structured, pretty well formulated, as to versus any of the other sections. So there's specific reasons why, and then we'll discuss some things on how we can address that as well. But otherwise, the other sections, actually our ICAP part of it, which is our property, our liability, our vehicles schedules, that was actually down $3,419 over last year, which is very nice to see, considering we added 2 new sheriff vehicles over the year. We added 3 secondary road dump trucks. We increased our overall property values by $379,000 over last year, just with general inflation increases on the buildings to keep up with that. And that's even net of taking off the Isaac Walton building and Gilmore City Shed that had been sold and things like that. So, the ICAP part of the program, I was very pleasantly surprised, or pleased with that, considering the additions we had, to have that actually be a reduction of that part. So, any questions on the overall totals? Otherwise, we'll go to the front and start through, and then, like I mentioned, we'll hit on the workers' compensation section. Okay? And that premium is split out. I emailed Peggy a breakout by department of that premium. So each, certain departments, general fund has a section, secondary road has their portion split out, conservation has their section, and so that just got delivered to Peggy over the weekend, and then she'll disseminate that, so each department can handle their piece of the overall premium accordingly. Okay, property section, this here is just how our property is covered is based on a blanket basis. So we have a list of all of our buildings, locations throughout the county that have personal property and building coverages, and it's just on a blanket basis, so we have access to the overall pool of money, rather than individual limits on specific buildings. And so that's indicated here. In the middle of the page, we're on the blanket, we have $17,923,763 worth of overall coverage. And once the ICAP just gives us renewal information, the policy is going to be printed over the next couple of weeks. Once that's printed, I'll share with Ben and Todd and all the supervisor heads of departments the schedules, so they can kind of review their specific schedules as to what buildings and locations you have. And so we obviously have a special cause of loss, or we have a $1,000 deductible. The RC on that column next to the $17,900,000, that stands for replacement cost. We have a replacement cost coverage on our property for there, on the $1,000 deductible. The next page is our crime. The main thing there, we've got $200,000 worth of employee dishonesty coverage. You know, that works either way with any kind of property that's being, you know, taken out the back door and sold outside on eBay or what have you, or just also just any mishap with funds and things like that for a dishonesty basis. And then the other highlight that I put on here for crime is the $10,000 money and securities, so that's just any kind of cash collection, whether cash is taken in here at the courthouse. It's both off premises and on premises, so whatever might happen if somebody comes in and breaks in here or has an issue here, or if it's on the way to the bank and they're getting out of their car and they know the routine that every Monday or every Friday somebody's making a deposit. Okay? The next page is our public officials and law enforcement liability. Here we have $2 million. So this is the main liability piece for the county. We have a $2 million per occurrence limit, and that's not limited, so each accident or each occurrence would always have a new $2 million available to it. For that, there's $10,000 worth of medical expense on there, you'll see, and the difference between medical expenses and your each occurrence is, medical expenses is just property premises that the county owns. If somebody has a mishap, but it's really not negligible to the county, you know, it's just trip or fall, slip, whatever, $10,000 is still available to seek some initial treatment, open a claim, it'll be reviewed. If they feel that the county isn't negligent for the injury, then that's the maximum that's available. If obviously we felt like, oh, we were planting trees and we dug this hole, we didn't put a fence around it, somebody fell in here, then we would have the larger liability, and then the defense would be provided for that claim as well. This is also where we have any kind of employee benefit, employment practices, so for discrimination, employment suits of that kind of thing. Our public officials liability is here, and you can see the differing deductibles. The top part for our general liability is what we call first dollar coverage. There's no deductible that applies to personal injury, as far as somebody bodily injury or property damage to other people. However, the bottom sections where we have our employment issues, or if we have decisions that the supervisor board would make, public official liability, you can see those do have deductibles that apply to. And then coverage would kick in obviously after that, and then law enforcement is also included there as well. Okay? And then those are just some of the rating things down below that they rate some liability pieces based on for there. And then this is just for your information, a claims made at the bottom. This liability is a claims made. There's two kind of ways that liability policies can be written. One's called an occurrence, one's called claims made. Claims made just says that the claim has to be presented during the ICAP policy period. So, versus an occurrence form, where that differs is you could move on to a different insurance carrier. The claim may have happened in the prior term, was presented in the new term with a different carrier. It goes back, which when the accident occurred, that's the coverage that takes place. So the claims made works a little bit different, and we have to be a little more careful with that, because obviously if that claim happened back here, it occurred back here, but the claim wasn't made until the new term, and that's with a different carrier, then we're out. So that's just an important piece to know there. Business auto liability, Again, these limits really haven't changed from the prior term. We have $2 million for any bodily injury or property damage accident. We have uninsured motorist of $1 million for that. Our comprehensive deductible for vehicles that have comprehensive coverage on them is $250. Collision deductible is $500. And you'll note at the bottom there, I did ask them to quote us what a $1,000 deductible on our auto schedule would be. I was a little disappointed, it only is a $317 savings. So, yeah, that's it, especially for as long of an auto schedule as we have, you know, with all the pickup trucks, police vehicles, pickup trucks, dump trucks, things like that. Yeah, and so, you know, to me, you're not even saving the difference between, you have one collision claim in a year and you're behind the eight ball. Normally, you have a 2 or 3 claim break-even point where you can feel like that might be worth looking at. So, but I wanted to bring that to your attention, that I did ask for that, and
I'm glad you did, because I was probably gonna ask you that question.
yeah, I was very surprised that it wasn't more significant. I mean, you guys can still vote to move the deductible up, but I don't know if that, in my opinion, would be the best.
Yeah, it would pay off.
And then the last thing on that page, just for you to be aware of, we do have what's called hired and non-owned liability coverage as a part of our policy. Where that becomes important is we may have a lot of employees that are driving their own vehicles to meetings, to conferences, just simply to go get mail or run for parts or something like that. They're not in a county-owned vehicle. So if they have an accident where they've injured somebody, their personal policy is the first one to respond to that accident. But we don't know what kind of policy limits they have. We don't know if they paid their premium. So if that policy comes up short for that person, and somebody's severely hurt, and questions start getting asked, and they find out that they're on their way to a meeting or a conference on behalf of the county, so then all of a sudden we get involved, this is our protection, that we get to come in as a secondary basis for that non-owned vehicle being used on behalf of the county. Okay? Equipment floater, that's just where our heavy equipment is scheduled, or mobile equipment, that's basically things that aren't required to be licensed for the road. So it's your backhoes, your skid loaders, your road graders, those kind of things. Lawnmowers. And then this is also where the EDP equipment, the big one to note was when we made that investment in our communications equipment to the tune of about $800,000 at the LEC, when we put up all that new electronics. That's where this is heightened to. So, as far as that goes, and you can see the value, the total value down below, we've got $3.5 million worth of coverage, which at $800,000 is included down below the communications equipment. Or, excuse me, that's outside of that. I put that out separately for the communication equipment. And then the 3.5 would be the road graders and skid loaders and mowers and that kind of thing. So Ben and Todd will review that once those things get printed out. The deductible here is $1,000. Most of this type of equipment here, with the exception of the EDP, is it's a combination. A lot of that heavy equipment is actual cash value. That's what the ACV stands for. So it works just like our auto policy, where it gets depreciated out just like your automobile does. You know, they're not going to replace a brand new dump truck if one that's 10 years old gets damaged. You know, you're going to get what that 10-year-old truck was worth. Okay? And then there is just some rented equipment, $50,000 per piece. So if we do think we need a high lift or something that we're working on to repair, make some maintenance to some of our secondary road sheds, we have up to $50,000 coverage. That can be increased if needed. So if we rent a piece of equipment and it gets damaged under our care, we've got some coverage there. Okay, workers' compensation. So this is one where I want to spend most of our time this morning because it had the biggest impact on this year's premium. And this is through IMWCA, which they're partnered with ICAP. ICAP is our property, liability, automobile, and then IMWCA is the workers' compensation section. So you can see in here, We have the $1 million for each accident, disease, policy limit, disease employee for an employer's liability. That hasn't changed, and that really has nothing to do with an employee injury. This is more for if there were to be a lawsuit that comes back around, which through the state of Iowa, the state of Iowa has statutes that us as employers are responsible for our employees. And so, because of we're statutorily pretty well regulated here, workers' compensation is usually the last remedy for an employee. They can't collect workers' compensation and then go back and sue their employer. Very rare circumstances. I mean, if there's gross negligence involved, they've told their supervisor this piece of equipment's gonna break or blow up, and they don't do anything, and it ultimately does, then those are some of those small places where they can get in. And that's where this liability limits apply. If it's just a simple, normal accident, and it takes over $1 million for medical bills and rehab and things like that, and lost time if they're off work because of that injury, that is unlimited. It takes whatever it's gonna take to get that employee back, is available to us. So now, just kind of running through that middle section, we'll see here our class code premiums. The way workers' compensation works is it's broken down into several classifications. We have our office classification, that has the lowest rate, because obviously there's the least amount of exposure there. And then they have different road classes where Ben's guys are in, parks classes where Todd's people are in, and those have varying rates based on, obviously, the risk that's involved. For the most part, this year over last year, all of the rates that are assigned to the various class codes were down. We had rate reductions in those class, with the exception of one class that is secondary roads related. I think that was flat, but everything else was down. Our payrolls were up 99,700 over last year, so obviously our increased payrolls would have effect, because that's how they multiply your payroll times the rate for workers' compensation. Some of the big things here now, the experience modification this year we're at .98. That's up. Last year, our experience modification was .88. So we've lost 10 points on our experience modification. Now, that is a formula that is actuarially derived. I mean, to give you the really nuts and bolts version of it, I don't know all the technical calculations in there, but the nuts and bolts of it is they look at your last 4 years, and they take the oldest 3, and it's the average of those oldest 3. And how that experience then works out is how the mod factor, and it's basically our gauge of how we're working, because all the base rates are pretty well set for everybody. The same rates apply to all counties. And so then, if you're below 1, it's saying that you're better than what the standard rates would be experience-wise, and so you get a little bit of a credit. So we're still getting...
It went up that much when the mod was below 1.
Yeah, so before we were at, well, it's the trend, it's our trend, and I'll hit that, and you'll see kind of why that was creeping up there. So we're still below the standard, we're at 2% below, but we're up, obviously we lost 10 points there. IMWCA says the average of their groups that are insured with them is about .88, so even though we're below the 1 standard and we're still receiving a credit, we're kind of above the average there. The premium discount credit, 15%, that's the same as last year. That's basically a combination of a longevity and a large premium credit. So there's groups of longevity periods, and we're in the middle of a longevity period. We'll maybe see another percentage or two the longer we're with it. It's our 10-year discount on that. So you can see the math at this point, we're discounted premiums at $86,000. Well, I kind of have this backwards here. This 9,000 credit should be up in there too, but the good experience credit is 8%. That's down from 17%. That kind of goes hand in hand with your experience mod. So as your experience mod goes down, your good experience credit goes up. So it's sort of a double whammy here. We lost, obviously, 9 points on that over last year. And then there's a third credit that's called the experience bonus. You get a bonus if your mod's below .95. So this is the first year out of the last couple, that we've been above .95. So there's another bonus credit that we available to receive. So all in all, after everything's discounted down, we're at $86,834. There's a volunteer, $100 minimum volunteer, medical only for volunteers, so then our overall premium is $86,934, as I mentioned, up $22,276 over last year. Now, to kind of backtrack to that experience modification, the 3 years that are in our average right now, the 15 to 16, we had 3 claims in that period totaling $1,711. So obviously a very good year back in that one. The 16 to 17, we had 4 claims, that totaled $38,090. And in the 17 to 18, which is our most recent one that's in the mix, we had 7 claims totaling $80,422. So you can see the trend has been up. Fortunately, with that oldest one being only $1,700, that's gonna roll off next year. So I mean, we could have really set ourselves up for a bad one, but fortunately, the 18 to 19 that we just ended, we have 3 claims on the schedule, unless there's something that's out there that I haven't seen yet, but what was reported to me was 3 claims for $1,437. So fortunately, we're gonna be replacing, the one that's gonna drop off, we're gonna replace it with basically the same thing. So, IMWCA has reached out to me in, trying to make sure that trend, we can reverse it back down. What they would like to see or suggested is that, a lot of counties that they work with have a safety coordinator, and they hold either monthly safety meetings with department heads or quarterly safety meetings. They said they'd be willing, they have a loss control supervisor assigned to our area, his name is Scott Smith. They'd be more than willing to, if the board decided that, yeah, it would be maybe a wise idea to have a safety coordinator nominated through one of your department heads, and they would be more than willing to come up and share their ideas on how a productive meeting might go and how often they should meet, and they would have materials available to use during the meeting, whether it's videos, whether it's documentation type stuff, just to help, because they've seen in the counties where there is that kind of activity happening on a quarterly basis or monthly basis, that mod factors and trends, have much better success that way, so. And in that way, we can get our mod factor heading down the right way, get some of these bonus credits back and stuff, because I know it wasn't too far back, obviously it was back when we were in the middle of the Doug Woods situation, we were above 1 in the mod, and so, I mean, we were actually getting a surcharge on our premiums. We don't want to end up in keeping the trend going that way, so. Any questions on that? If you do decide that a safety coordinator would be good, certainly contact, or have them contact me, I'll get them in touch with Scott at IMWCA, and they can get off on the right foot going forward. So.
I've worked with insurance before, like on this, with the work comp, and they're very good, they have everything laid out, they'll give you the worksheets and everything, and they'll help you train, so that you can train your people. They are doing a very good job.
Yeah.
The 2 years of high claims, wasn't that due to an incident at the law enforcement center where an employee was rendered unable to come back to work for a significant...
That was a part of the 17 to 18 with the 80,000, yeah. Retired. The 16 to 17 with the 38,000, that was a combination of some injuries at secondary roads and law enforcement. I mean, that's generally where, if we see work comp over the years, yeah.
We don't have near as many secretaries that get hurt on a computer as opposed to a guy slipping off of a machine or...
Climbing up and down the nail.
Right. And that's why...
Step in a hole.
So you're not supposed to be in that ladder, Peggy.
Right. And that's why it's reflective in the rates. Obviously, our clerical, about 1/4 of our premium, or payroll, 1/4 of our payroll is in what's called the clerical class, But out of the $86,000 in premium, the $1,785 of it comes from the clerical class. So, I mean, 1/4 of our payroll is basically, whatever, 1.5% of our premium. So, obviously, it's reflective in that. They know injuries for people that have a desk job are much less likely to happen than somebody that's out chasing bad guys or climbing up and down on equipment and lifting heavy things and doing that kind of stuff, so.
Yeah, I'm surprised that our mod number went up when we really didn't have any more claims.
Well, the one, like I was saying, what happened was the 14 to 15 fell off, which was also low, and we added the 17 to 18, which was the 80.
Oh, we added that one, got it.
Right, why I gave you the reference of
The next year's.
Right, because the 15 to 16 was very, very low, and we could have really set ourselves up to shoot above 1
If we had another.
if we would've had something in the 30s to 40s like we've had, but fortunately this year, we're bringing in about 1,400, so we kept this year very reasonable.
Hopefully next year it'll drop down.
Well, or keep the same, because we're basically dropping off 1,700 and bringing in 1,400, so that's very leveled off, you know. I don't know the details on how the formulas work, but they just say it's the you know, a bulk of what happens is the average of the oldest three.
Okay.
So, yeah, the 14 to 15 was obviously a lot lower than the 80,000 that came on. We dropped something off very low, the 80 came on, so then it
Bumped it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right, anything else on that? We kinda hammered that enough. The last page is the umbrella page, which umbrella, that's just our second layer of liability, so on those previous pages, we saw what we had for automobile, $2 million automobile liability, we had $2 million general liability and law enforcement liability. Then we add a secondary layer if it goes through those initial policies. This is our secondary layer of coverage. We've elected $4 million, so we have, in a sense, $6 million available for any one loss. You can see down below the additional costs, and to bring the umbrella up to $13 million, that's the maximum at this point that ICAP has available. So I've showed you what we can do to max out coverage if we want to max out coverage. Where the $6 million falls, I'm not exactly sure. The one statistic that I do know is, for counties, there's 76 counties in the ICAP program, I believe, 74 or 76. But they said in the $6 million umbrella mark puts you in the top third. So, we're not quite in the top third. We're probably closer to the 50% mark, but, you know, each county's different. What do you know what their exposure is? I know we're one of the smaller counties out there. But that's just for your information, so you can see if you were elected to bump a level up or 2 levels up, what that would take. Okay?
I would like, when we're doing our budget,
Yeah, I'll send you all your
maybe
schedules.
see what those numbers, how that would reflect when we, if we just maybe raised one, you'd have a better chance of reminding us than me writing it down and then losing it on my desk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anything else? Well, and the one thing I do want to, I guess, mention, I don't know if I mentioned it, our ICAP voucher, which basically is, and that's one of the main reasons our ICAP portion was down over last year. That's just basically a reserve fund credit. It's a combination of the excess reserves that they have in the pool that they want to share back to the members, and then also you get vested the longer you're in, and we started with ICAP in 2013. I think at the 7-year mark, you're fully vested, so we're ramping up our percentage back when they do elect that. Last year, we received $268 back as a credit voucher. This year, we're receiving back $9,251, so significantly higher. that's why our ICAP portion was down $3,000 over last year, and basically the difference is all in that workers' compensation area. So, that's in the spreadsheet that I gave Peggy, that's all prorated out by department on that credit, so they'll all get their chance to receive that. That's all I have for you.
I have one question on it, you know, those cabins we're looking at doing out at Sheldon? I guess, I don't know what the value of those things, you know, but I guess I'm curious to know, being we're gonna use the school. Building trades kids to do that, do they cover that? Is there insurance, or how does that work on there while the kids are working?
I would think their insurance, 'cause that's
It's through Iowa Central, but it's also through the high school, but I just wanna make sure all that is smooth.
never really thought about that.
Yeah, they've done several projects in the past with, you know, the regular residential, and between the schools policy and Iowa Central, they're...
The difference is that here, they're doing it on our property before they did it on their property.
Yeah, it was still the Humboldt County Housing's
Yeah.
property, so it's still a different entity's property, and they work together on that, as far as, you know, we may need to, that all runs through the school's policy as far as, having that tied in. And we do have Humboldt County Housing, you know, listed on their policy as well, so that may be something we'll research now that it's a different partnership here.
Well, I know that I've just heard through kids that say, you know, you talk about the training part of what we could do with secondary roads or whoever. Those kids are told, you know, there is no messing around, we're all business, we don't, so they only get one mess up, but it's still, it's one of those things I just thought I'd ask.
All it takes is one, yeah.
So if you find anything...
We'll look at that.
Other than that, appreciate it.
No problem.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Very good.
Very good.
Yeah, there's just a few things, that Rick will need to sign here. There.
Rick came to the meeting and look what he's going to do, you get
Sign. Peggy, this is yours there, I think, 'cause that has to be the auditor on that one. There's that one. This is the, well, this, let's steal your time, that's the landfill thing. They wanna have a no smoking sign and a fire extinguisher out there. And so that's just saying that we, that we would agree to do that, so.
Okay.
Yeah. They had an inspection done at the building out there, and, I think they're a little more, they're applying their normal standards to a building that's, you know, I don't know if that ever...
Yeah.
It's even in use, yeah, and they're saying, oh, we don't have any no smoking signs up, we don't have a fire extinguisher out there, so...
Who's your alternate on that landfill commission?
It's just that one spot?
Yeah.
Okay, that works.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it, and anything else pops up, let me know, I'll certainly be happy. And like I said, I'll share with Ben once those schedules get printed, or get them to you, and then, Todd and those guys, everybody that has that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Go through them.
that's fine.
Okay.
The only thing that we argue with is the road construction line item, when they Lombard blade operators and that. It's just what they do, I mean, it's nothing that Scott sets up, but our guys aren't actually constructing a road where they've got traffic running right next to them, you know, like you think when you hear road construction, but because they're shaping a road, that's what they...
But it's all the definition of
And
it.
it's a very high risk, because the number of claims that come from that.
Historically.
Each class code has a definition of what types of activities fit into that class code, and so when the auditor comes and works with payroll and job descriptions, then they have to assign into the class codes, and yeah, sometimes you scratch your head on why they have to go where they do, but... Okay, thank you.
Can we get a copy for Dave and Eric?
Yeah, I've got a few extra copies. I brought, this should be that, and then I'll save you making copies. I think this is... Yep,
Thank you.
there you go. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All righty, Ben, would you like to come up?
Sure.
Looks like you got a couple of items for us.
A couple of work in the right-of-way permits. The first one that I have is for Midland Power to switch electrical from overhead to underground at the Millis Farm over in Weaver Township on Elm Avenue. It's two locations. They're gonna bore under the road to 2495 Elm Avenue and 2491 Elm Avenue.
Okay. Everything's good with you on these, I'm sure?
Yes.
I'd make a motion.
Have a first,
Second?
second from Sandy, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we have an application for approval of construction of right-of-way for,
This is for, Ron Stein over on 260th Street between Colorado and Delaware Avenue. He's got 40 acres of farm ground on the north side and 160 on the south side. The 40 drains to the 160. He had a contractor pattern tile that 160 acres here a while back, last year or possibly the year before, and for whatever reason, they didn't hook up the tile line that drains the 40 on the north, so it drowns out a portion of his field right in the corner. He wants to connect his tile line to that tile line, which I think he can do all on private property, but he might want to upgrade the intake that's at the back of the right-of-way at the same time. I told him that basically what we had there works perfectly fine. If he chooses that option, he's doing it at his own cost. Yes.
So this isn't a new tile line, they're just hooking one up that they missed.
They're hooking one up that they missed, but in the process, he might be upgrading the intake. So he'd need permission to be in the right-of-way.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve.
got a motion from Bruce,
Second.
second from Sandy, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Other than that, right now, we are down by Pioneer, working on a tile issue of Terry Stein's, digging that up and trying to figure out what's going on with that, and hauling rock. We'll be predominantly hauling rock for the next 2 to 3 weeks, trying to finish up. It's part of that whole late to no spring that we had. We're about a month behind in our work. Grout Scouts is hopefully finishing up this week as far as their work, repairing cross pipes under the highways. Last Friday, I talked to Sandy. We did some road repair up in Vernon Township, where a private contractor was having concrete hauled in for a new hog facility and rutted up and tore up the road. We did get up there and blade it before the end of the day, and I think they ended up hauling 2 loads of rock
That's the one
to,
up in Washington.
yeah,
Yeah.
2 loads of rock on soft spots is what we ended up hauling, so. Dave's supposed to be making contact with that landowner, basically, you know, pay attention to the conditions.
Yeah, let us know.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Did you get your mower fixed? You heard?
One, Dakota City's mower is fixed, they're back running right now. Hardy's supposedly got fixed, we hauled it away on Wednesday, started mowing on Friday, and it's back at the doctor. We've got...
The mower or the tractor?
I think it's the tractor itself was throwing error codes. We've got one motor patrol down at Murphy's, getting a new transmission put in it, and there's one up in Bode that is acting very similar. Murphy's was up last week, and they wanna load it up on a lowboy and haul it down to Fort Dodge, so fingers crossed that's not another transmission, so. As far as I know, the 2 new motor patrols are still scheduled to be here the end of this month, beginning of next month.
Yeah, remind me again, what brand was it?
Those are Caterpillar.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So,
So, are we, I don't have a clue what our maintenance is on those things when they reach a certain hour, would the transmissions have a, are they just...
We've got a-
fluid, or is Murphy checked those, or how do we do that?
we change all of our fluids, it's usually on a set rotation, I wanna say 3,000 hours. They change all of the fluids, could be wrong, it could be quicker than that, but, what this ended up being was, clutch inside the, I wanna say they said it was an electronic clutch inside the transmission that crapped out on Steve's machine and basically shredded everything inside. Now, it doesn't sound like Larry's is to that point, so it might just be pulling open the transmission and replacing the clutch.
Well, I guess that's my question is, I don't, you know, when we do our own maintenance, like dropping the fluids, doing filters, maybe...
And everything gets sent into, for
Yeah.
testing
They
as
test
well.
it.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah, all the fluids go in, both Cat and Deere have their own individual fluid analysis program.
Yeah, they can catch early if there's something going on.
Yes.
All right,
Alrighty.
perfect.
That's good.
Okay.
I have noticed, we're blocked out, I'm trying to think of where exactly it is, where the dredge is running right close to the road there.
Mm-hmm.
On the south side, look like there's some holes in the road ditch.
Okay,
Just so you know, when your guys are up that way, take a look at it.
okay. Like somebody digging, or?
No, something dirt in the right of way.
Okay,
There's one out, I can see it out in the field a ways, and it looks like there's one in the road ditch too,
okay.
so.
I'll have to look at it.
Yeah, if you get some guys up
Over
there,
there.
take a peek.
I called Dave the other day on one over there on the Rutland curve, somebody was worried that a motorcycle or something would hit that.
He said he went out and fixed a pothole
Yes,
south of Rutland on Friday.
bike or motorcycle hit that, I said, well, it's too easy to go patch it, so so I called Dave and he took off and went and did it, so I'll tell him thank you,
Said
appreciate
it was
it.
half a bag of
Yeah.
cold patch or something, so.
Yeah.
Well, most of the time, if people will just give a yell, we can go do that, rather than have somebody end up on the concrete or the gravel or the blacktop, whatever, so.
Dave was really good about, when he told me just to call him,
Mhm.
when he got a hold of me then, so I can get a hold of the guy that called me, so
Okay.
it all worked out really good.
Good.
Alrighty.
Other than that, are you guys having a board meeting on Monday or not? No. Okay. I've got, well...
There's been no motion made.
No, I've got quotes coming for a work truck for the Dakota City shop, and I'm just wondering, so if I wait that 2 weeks, or for official approval, you know, I know the dealers would like to get them ordered. I think they said it's usually about an 8-week turnaround for a truck. I have got both quotes from the two local suppliers, but I haven't gone through them yet.
Well, probably can't officially do that. Just on the agenda. So,
Well, next, with Dave and Eric, and these two are gonna be going to Vegas for that NACO conference, so it'll just be Eric and I.
Okay.
We wouldn't have enough to...
We wouldn't have enough to
No.
approve it next week anyway.
Form
so
anyway, so...
I'll just bump it off
Yeah, you're gonna have
another
to
week. Okay,
stall them.
that's fine.
Well, just tell them the board won't have enough for the quorum, and we didn't get it on the agenda, so...
Nope, that's fine.
Peggy's very particular with what she lets us do.
Yeah,
That's right, yeah, it keeps us all out of the...
Trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Everything else is going good.
Okay.
Alrighty, and now we're down to accept and place on file the quarterly report for the quarter ended June 30th, which we have right here.
There are actually two pieces to that. The one I made it a two-page sheet for you, and then the second one is...
Okay, so we'd have to approve both of them, both
You
pages?
could do that in one motion.
One for 71,000 and the other one for 20. I would make a motion to approve the recorder's quarterly report, both of them.
Okay, everybody first?
Second.
Bruce, second from Sandy, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, now we're moving to the discussion of possible cancellation of board meeting for July 15th due to lack of...
Members.
Attendees.
Yeah.
Well, I'm willing to come. I wanna go on record and say that I'm gonna be here. But you guys don't come back
We don't
from
get back to
your
the
conference
16th.
till the 16th,
Yeah.
so...
I mean, that was the only thing that you could make it on.
And those
Later
different
date,
days,
if it's
that's what I was thinking.
Extremely pressing, but I don't think we have anything, because we got claims this week, so we don't have claims next week,
Right,
so.
yeah.
Well,
I have a meeting on the 17th in Charles City, so the only other day I could do it would be either the 18th or 19th. If
Then
we
you're on,
did do-
then you're at the end of the week.
Right, so then,
then
honestly, might as well
you're
just
gonna do it on
wait.
the following Monday, so...
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion for that then.
Okay, I'll make a motion to, cancel the meeting on July 15th, 2019.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Would've been like a three-person board if we would have two people there. Accept and place on file the Central Iowa Juvenile Detention Center report for fiscal year 17-18.
This is what Bruce mentioned last week. It did come through on email to me, so I have a copy here if you want to look at it, but...
They do, they just like to have that in their, records, that all of the member counties
Receive
their copy, and that we come back with our motion to tell them that we approved.
received it.
Yep, we received it and approved. And all, in their audit, the last couple of pages show that there's nothing, out of ordinary, right, Peggy? That's the way I read it. So being them on the board,
Okay, I
I'd
will
let you
say,
make the
I was just
motion
gonna
that
say,
can approve.
I was gonna make a motion, I'll make a motion that we accept the, place on file the Central Iowa Juvenile Detention Center report for...
I have a first from Sandy,
And I will second it.
second from Bruce. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Alrighty, we have done claims, so we're down to committee reports.
Let's see, the only thing I came up on Tuesday and helped with flags, and I would like to give a shout out to the, high school kids. I sent a message to, football coach, Coach Edelman, is that? And he brought up a lot of kids.
Oh, that helped.
Oh, my goodness, and they were like, you know, beehive running around and flagpoles going up and ducking, and it's like, listen, we gotta somewhat stay safe, but we got them up and lickety-split, and I'm hoping that tonight, they show back up, 'cause tonight they're at 5 o'clock, they're going to take them down, so. Last week, Tuesday, I was up for that, tonight they come down, and then I would also say that, Wednesday night, 4:30 to 6, we have the mobile food pantry down at, the fairgrounds, so. That's what
4:30 to 6.
Yeah, well, it's usually 4:30 to 6:30, but
Yeah.
most of the time the food is all gone
They go through
before.
it quite fast, that's Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Had a pretty good turnout for that?
For the mobile?
Yeah.
Well, this Wednesday.
Oh, it's this coming Wednesday, okay.
Yes. And that's what I had,
And that's at the fairgrounds?
yeah,
Okay.
down at, it would be the south building there,
Yeah, bingo building.
yeah, the old bingo building.
Okay. All right, I don't think well, you were in the parade with me.
Oh, we had the two-night
What is that?
parade with
Yeah.
withdrawal from the first night.
I was there Wednesday, got wet, soaking wet.
That's why she's got pneumonia.
Yeah. And then we were there Friday.
Thank goodness, I had a daughter that had kids, so I put my truck out on the street so she could get the kids, and then by the time the monsoon started, I said, well, I'm not walking out and getting soaked before I get to the parade, and then pretty soon Dave sent a text that said, they just called it. I said,
Yeah.
perfect, so then we went up and did it Friday.
And it was a monsoon, oh my gosh, it was unbelievable.
Really got down.
Oh, just
I heard we had over an inch, right?
had to, because when I was walking, it was raining, but nothing, I'm like, oh, it's just gonna rain, it'll go away. You know,
Are you
we were...
carrying the candy?
I was carrying the candy, and my nephew was with me too, so he had the box, and I had the, because it was the sack, so I'm sitting here trying to hold the sack, so, you know. Yeah, it was kinda crazy, but we got there, and then, yeah. But anyway, so that's all I had, but then also I don't know if I got a call from, somebody on, 4 Washington Avenue, we got that taken care of for the road. That's it.
We should get little perks from the secondary roads for, there's only 3 of us in the truck, so we're throwing stuff out the
Yeah.
window. I said, there's a lot of candy on the floor back here. Dave goes, just leave it, the guys will like it, so.
Clean the truck out of a bag of candy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay. For me, I had the LEC meeting on Monday last week, and that was it. Okay. Do you have anything else for us, Peggy?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I guess I'll...
All
I got a
right.
first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Or adjourned at 9:40.